patiently for the I am. He inclined unto me and heard my cry. He brought me up out of an horrible pit, out of the miry clay, and set my feet upon a rock and established my going. And he hath put a new song in my mouth, even praise unto our God. Many shall see it and fear and shall trust in Yahuwah. Blessed is the man that maketh Yahweh his trust and respecteth not the proud, nor such as turn aside to lies. Many, O Sanini Nanini, my God, are thy wonderful works which thou hast done, and thy thoughts which are to usward, they cannot be reckoned up in order unto thee. If I would declare and speak of them, they are more than can be numbered. Sacrifice and offerings didst not desire. Mine ears had opened, burnt offerings and the sin offerings hast thou not required. Then said I, Lo, I come in the volume of the book, it is written of me to delight to do thy will, O God. Yea, thy law is within my heart. I have preached righteousness in the great congregation. Lo, I have not refrained my lips. O Yahuwah, thou knowest. I have not hid thy righteousness within my heart. I have declared thy faithfulness and thy salvation. I have not concealed thy loving kindness and thy truth from the great congregation. Withhold not thy tender mercies from me, O Yahweh. Let thy loving kindness and thy truth continually preserve me. For innumerable evils have compassed me about. Mine iniquities have taken hold upon me, so that I am not able to speak or look up. They are more than the hairs of mine head. Therefore my heart faileth me. Be pleased, O Sanini Nanini. Deliver me, O Tata Nzambi. Make haste to help me. Let them be ashamed and confounded together that seek after my soul to destroy it. Let them be driven backwards to put shame that wish me evil. Let them be desolate for reward of their shame, that they say unto me, Ha ha. Let all those that seek thee rejoice and be glad in thee, such as love thy salvation, and say continually, Ah, Yahuwah be magnified. But I am poor and needy, yet Yahweh thinketh upon me. Thou art my help, my deliverer, make no tarrying of my God. That's Psalms chapter 40. Deliver me from the hands of evil spirits who have swayed the thoughts of men's hearts, and let them not lead me astray from thee, my God. Establish thou me and my seed, that we go not astray henceforth and forever. Jubilees chapter 12 and verse 20. Yes, all praises, praises, praises for him who has delivered us and brought us out of the darkness into the light of the law. Yes, the light of the law, thy law. Yes, David is talking of himself, the sin that he committed. That's what he's talking about. But the fact is that we would take those things. See, the heathen they're very cunning. This is the cunningness of spirits, evil spirits. The cunningness of those that were chosen to deceive and push Jacob away because of his rejection of the Most High in many ways. Now, we are in the book of 2 Samuel, still in the book of 2 Samuel. Yes, and we thank God. We know for most of you today is in the U.S. is election day. That's going to be a fiasco. But either way, it doesn't matter. God still is king. We ain't talking about Isis. We ain't talking about Muhammad. We ain't talking about all these other. God still is king. Even Yah Allah, Yahuwah, Yahweh, whatever you call him. I mean, people come up with all kind of Sanini Nanini. It means I am that I am. Okay? Tata Nzambi, my father. These things are majors and minors. Let the meditation of the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable unto thee, my God. There are many languages in the earth, many languages. English is not the only language. Thank you. Although that's what those of you that hear me understand, that you speak English, but English is not the only language. And then you have these people come up, oh, this means evil. This means, who cares? I'm talking to God. I'm trying to get him right. When that day comes, when God comes back with 10,000 of his anointed ones, I want to be one of those anointed ones with him. His laws, statutes, commandments, and ordinances are what counts and matters. This is what the psalmist is really talking about. But either way, I digress, and we are thankful. And also, we thank God for those of you that have been with us since the beginning, and those that have been with us here and there's about, and those of you who have just subscribed, and also those of you that are about to subscribe, calling those things that are not as though they are. Yes, all praises to his holy name. Yes, these things the world they take for granted. I mean, it's okay, because God knows them who are his. Many are chosen, but many are called. Either way, it's many are called. You had Saul, case in point. He was called, but he wasn't chosen, that his seed should succeed him in the line of kings of Israel. He chose David over Saul, a man after his own heart. But we're going to see, is David really a man after God's own heart? What does that mean? Why did God even give him that title, a man after God's own heart? This is a phenomenon, really it is. So we're going into 2 Samuel and try to figure this out. 2 Samuel chapter 11. Chapter 11. Many of you heard this, in your churches, mosque or whatever, or your studies or whatever you do. Some of you in your deranged denominations of Christianity, yeah, you heard it too. And it came to pass, in verse 1, after the year was expired, at the time when the kings go forth to battle, that David sent Joab his servants with him and all Israel, and they destroyed the children of Ammon and besieged Rabbah. But David tarried still at Jerusalem. David was there. I mean, people going out. God is with the people. You ain't got to be micromanaging everything. No, you don't have to do that. And it came to pass in an eventide that David rose from off his bed and walked upon the roof of the king's house. And from the roof he saw a woman washing herself. And the woman was very beautiful to look upon. Yes, men, have you not even seen that you got these, you say, wow, I mean, women have taken care of their bodies and all these things, and this is something that happens a lot, but it just happened. David saw her. Think about it. He said at eventide. Now, it probably was turning dark or something. She probably got out there so nobody really could see her. But apparently there was enough light there that David rose from off his bed and walked upon the roof of the king's house. Now, according to, as the brother, if you look up Jebus and you go to that area where the temple is in the city of David, there's a part that is said to where David had looked over and saw Bathsheba, because you have to realize David's house and the temple are on a hill. And then the rest of the city flows down. It flows down, and you could just about go on your roof and you could look. So he saw this nice dark black woman. Beautiful. Didn't have no dye or lye in her hair to make it straight. But whatever she did to her hair, it was beautiful, and she was beautiful. And she was washing herself. And he says now in verse 3, David sent and inquired after the woman. This here was strike one. Lust is being conceived. This is an evil lust, lusting after another man's wife. The adulterous thought is in his heart right here. We're going to break it down. We're going to chop it up, as some of you new ages, or whatever you want to call it, modern ones would say. And one said, is this not Bathsheba, That kind of gets me, Bathsheba. A bath, taking a bath, that's English, but what does bath mean? I looked that up, yes. The daughter of Eliam. In other words, she was known by her father, who was Eliam. The wife of Uriah the Hittite. Now, apparently, more than likely, Uriah did not marry an Israelite woman. That was frowned upon, and it was not one that a man should give his daughter to the heathen or to the stranger. So apparently I would assume, I might be wrong, but I would assume that Bathsheba was a Hittite or a Canaanitish woman, somewhere or another. You had the Hittite, Perizzites, Jebusites, and Perizzites. You had all them that were still in the land because the land was not thoroughly cleansed as God would want it to be, and he commanded it to be, for he knew his reasons. And this is one of them. So, and David sent messengers and took her, and she came unto him. Who can resist the king? He was the king. She was the wife of another man. She knew better, but she was not. Let's just call a buck a buck. She was not an Israelite. Did she go by the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High? Maybe, but she still may have had pagan tendencies. Even as Israel had, either way, doesn't matter. And he sent messages, go get her, man. Oh, man, she fine. Woo. This girl got everything in the right place. Even Lionel Richie couldn't even describe that. Now, he stood up there, he saw it. When lust is conceived, it brings forth sin. Sin in his heart already. He sent messengers and took her. She came in unto him, and he lay with her. When sin is finished, it brings forth death. Now that part is true. Whatever scholar or translator or whoever did that, they did a good thing in an analogy of looking at the whole scenario of the Old Testament. It wasn't the person that wrote it, no. For she was purified from her cleanness. In other words, she was washing up because she had just came off that time of month, and now she's cleaning her body up because, you know, the law says a woman should do this after her woman time, we'll put it that way. And she returned unto her house. In other words, the king wanted to grab her and get his taste of the dainties. Isn't it the same king or his son that says, stolen waters are sweet? What was he talking about? Adultery. That's what he was talking about. Stolen waters are sweet. Many of you don't understand when you get to that point where you have lain with another man's spouse, his wife, woman, female. And both of y'all are so into the thing. These are stolen waters. These things, you get into it and you enjoy it, even though he had wives. He had Abigail. He had the other wives that he had during the time that he was exiled until Saul was demised. He had these wives. Did not they have the same thing? Did they have the same breasts, the same loins, the same everything? Hair. They were pretty women. David ain't gonna sit up there and marry no ugly woman. No. But anyway, stolen waters. I'm gonna sneak this one. Woo, I bet you that's good. The same thing. The same human form. The same female. Made the same way. Sometimes you got to just make it make sense. Why do I want this? She had no personality to show David. She was just washing her body. And she happened to be beautiful. And he happened to see it. He was in his testing mode to see if he was a man that would really be after God's own. We don't know the blessings that David would have had if he would have done what was right. But not only this had turned to this, let us read on. And he said for she was purified of her uncleanness, and she returned unto her house. In other words, she wouldn't have no babies of Uriah because she ain't had relations with him. And the fact is, you ask yourself now, if she was sometimes that takes 7 days. That takes a few days right after their uncleanness. And the woman conceived and sent and told David. So she had that egg that came down, and the cycle began, and his seed met hers, and said, I am with child. And David sent Joab, saying, send me Uriah the Hittite. And Joab sent Uriah to David. But David should have been put to death. Is it not your God that said one law? Even for the king, David should have been put to death. For he had lain with another man's wife, even though that man was a stranger. I don't know what he was thinking in his heart. But he should have been put to death, the King David, for what he had did. But because he was king, people feared him, and the things that he had done, the victories he won, people feared him. So he was sort of above the law at this point in the minds and hearts of men. Was he above the law with God? Let us find out. And these are the parts of the Psalms that we hear. This is the sin that David did. This is the sin that David did that have caused his Psalms about to write the Psalms that he wrote. Psalm 37 and what we just read. In the volume of the book, it was written of me. In the volume of the book, it was written of David that he should come. Why? You had Ruth, Boaz, and then you had all the other ones come, even down from Abram to Isaac to Jacob. All these things is what he was talking about. He wasn't talking about no Esau. You need to get a life. Tell God to ask God to remove the scales off your eyes. And stop listening to these people who are so into mysticism and all this other garbage. The scriptures are really, if your eyes are open, the scriptures are really plain. They're plain as day. You don't have to go into all this, they meant it this way, they meant it. No. They said it the way they put it, and they were so crazy, they didn't understand that they should have made the words and the actions match. But this is where God is wise. And when they had told David, saying, Uriah went not down unto his house, David said unto Uriah, comest thou not from thy journey? No, here this man got through, as the old movies say, porking his wife, the king, whom his wife could not resist because of his authority. He calls for, she's going to come. Even a man would come. Not that a man would, I don't know, but either way, we're going to leave that alone. But anyway, why then thou not go down to thine house? In other words, it would have been David's baby, but Uriah would have laid with his wife, and she could have claimed, and the lie would have continued. Now, this happens also in Israel during back that time, where the woman lied with another man, but yet she claimed the baby on him. This is an age-old thing that have happened. But now God has straightened it out. He's allowed man to understand and know the DNA structure of men and how to tell if a child is a man's child or if it's even a woman's child. They have learned how to do this. Now, here we go. They didn't have that back then. How could you tell that this was your child? Now, today, you have men that have raised children through the whole cycle up to adulthood, and they were never their child. This is not uncommon. And the fact is that many have caused themselves to be heartached at the end of it after they've loved and appreciate the woman for having the babies, and she lied. Even she would have kept that lie to the day of her death. Some women are like this. They will keep a lie to the day of their death. Not only with children, but with other things. Look at Emmett Till. She kept a lie until the day of her death. Yes. Now, men We ain't too good at lying. We can lie, but if we get find out because we're going to screw up somewhere along the line, most of us. Now, and when they had told David, saying Uriah would not down to his house, David said to Uriah, comest not down from thy journey why then thou not go down into thy house? In other words, David, the baby is yours. God orchestrated this himself to make sure that you are the one, and without a doubt. And Uriah said to David, the ark and Israel and Judah abide in tents, and my lord Joab and the servants of my lord are encamped in open fields. Shall I then go into my house to eat and to drink and to lie with my wife? He said, look here, we haven't even built a temple yet. This Hittite was also, he was converted over to the way of the Most High, even his laws, commandments, statutes, and judgments, ordinances, yes. He was already converted. Yes, and he loved God, apparently, for what he says. He says now, let me read this again. And the servants of my king are encamped in open fields, and shall I then go into my house to eat and drink? And he was also talking about the ark. The ark and Israel abide in tents still, because it was just really getting started. Towns were just being, not all towns, but some towns have had no houses and they were just building things. Yes, it takes time. And then shall I go into my house, eat and drink and lie with my wife, as thou livest and as thou soul liveth? I will not do it. You can understand that this thing was done. Marriage, relationship between man and woman, had a whole different mindset then as it does now. A whole different mindset. There was no such thing as dating. If she was given to you as your wife, that was your wife, period. If you had took her and she would make do with what she had and she would make her husband great. But this woman, she should have just laid down and had her life taken, even if it meant that, or if the king would have graped her, she would have been better off. But this is something that's in the will of the Most High. And some of you would say, oh, it is one of those things that God did not see. It is what you would call it. It is a misnomer. This is, some of you would say that. You try to justify. There's no justification of this. David committed adultery and he should have been put to death according to the law. And David said to Uriah, tarry here today and tomorrow, and I will let thee depart. So Uriah abode in the city of Jerusalem that day and the morrow. And then when David called him, he did eat and drink before him, and he made him drunk. Now see, he's trying to appease this lowly man, poor man, who's loyal to his king and his God. A poor man. And his wife just happened to be beautiful. There's a lot of beautiful poor women out there married to men that are really faithful and just in their homes. But they don't let that go to their head like you, woman. Some of you modern women, that you just don't let it go. You done put all kind of things on your body, your BBLs and all this other stuff, all the makeup. That's not beauty. I can understand the eyeliner and all that stuff, but the fact is that's not beauty. Beauty is your natural self, a clean face, a washed body, hair that is prepared and combed or whatever you want to call it. Or you can just hang ragged, however you do it. But that is beauty, and it will come out as beauty. Not only your face and all of this, but also your body. You have to realize in many instances where young women are very beautiful, most women are beautiful, period. Most women, in their own right, yes, to the beholder, they are beautiful. Yes, if you look upon them and you really see, and you say, what does this man see in this woman? And you actually really look at her. Okay, I see. All right. And then the fact is, you say, you got that Satan has deceived you, woman, and that you should wear these things that was really made for those men who would pretend they were women in these shows in ancient Europe, or should I say pre-slavery, pre-colonial, or colonial Europe? Yes, they did. Now let's continue. This is getting good. And David said to Uriah, tarry you here. And when David had called him, he did eat and drink. Okay, he was saying, all right, it's just like a friend and borrowed something from you. He knows he's not going to get it back. So he gives you little or nothing for what you get. And then try to tell you, and try to still be your friend, but yet he's nothing but a con man. He done stole whatever he borrowed from you and trying to appease you to where you just say, oh, keep it. And at the end, and at even, he went out to lie on his bed with the servants of his king, but went not down to his house. In other words, he had a little pallet on the ground. That's what he had. A pallet or a blanket on the ground. And it says now, and it came to pass in the morning, David wrote a letter to Joab and sent it by the hand of Uriah. He wrote in the letter saying, set Uriah in the forefront of the hottest battle. Now, this is the power of the king. He has authority over men to command them to come and go. And retire ye from him. In other words, he's saying, just put him out in the front and leave. I want him dead. I don't want him to know that I laid with his wife. I don't want him to know that a poor man like this with a rich king and a powerful king like me could just take something from a little beggarly soldier that loved me to death and then find out that I hated him. Didn't find out whose wife, didn't care whose wife that was of my people, of my soldiers. I just wanted to please my own pleasure. You selfish man, you got a problem. I don't care how much she called herself flaunting her behind and all her dainties and all this other stuff, packing on makeup. If that's another man's wife, even if it ain't, it's not yours, thou shalt not covet. That's another one he had violated before the Most High. His heart was bitter, his heart was dark, his sin all upon him. And now he's pushing sin upon sin to the point where he orchestrated murder out of malice because he did not want to be found out. Murder out of malice. David murdered. David committed adultery. David coveted. 3. They compound upon us. A lie can lead to many things, even our own lust. And it came to pass, when Joab observed the city, he assigned Uriah to a place where he knew that valiant men were. In other words, he knew where the fight was heavy. And these valiant men were really winning. And the men of the city went out and fought with Joab, and there fell of some people of the servants of David, and Uriah the Hittite died also. And Joab sent and told David all the things concerning the war, and charged the messengers, saying, when thou hast made an end of telling the matters of war unto the king, if so be that the king's wrath arise, he say unto thee, wherefore approach ye so nigh unto the city? When ye did fight, ye knew not that they would shoot from the wall. You didn't know. In other words, he had to come up with some excuse to who? His wife? Who smote Abimelech, the sons of Jerubbesheth? Did not a woman cast a piece of millstone upon him from the wall, that he did die in Thebez? Why went ye nigh the wall? Didn't ye say, thy servant Uriah the Hittite is dead also? It's orchestrated. A lie. Adultery. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not lie. Thou shalt not covet. Isn't these things toward your fellow man? Even if you take it to the negatives, David have. He cannot say, I have not committed adultery. He can't say, I have not coveted. Either way, the commandment is the commandment, period. For those of you who are in Egyptology and the foolery of Egypt, which shall never rise, I'm going to tell you that now, it'll never rise. You're just fighting a dead demonic horse. Even God even come to the point where he said, you shall not do after the Egyptians. He said that. He said, and the messenger went and came and showed David all that Joab had sent him for. And the messenger said unto David, surely the men prevailed against us and came out unto us into the field. How can that even hide the fact that you got, at the time this woman was married to that man, you got her pregnant because of your own selfish desire toward your neighbor's wife? You coveted her. You committed adultery because of your covetousness. I don't care if she walked in front of you butt naked. Yeah, it's going to excite you a little bit, but it's not yours. She's not committed to you. She wasn't espoused to you. Even if she smiled with a smirk on her face like she like you. Woman, go on about your business. And the shooters from off the wall upon thy servants of some of the king's servants be dead, and thy servant Uriah the Hittite is dead also. One law, God says. God will even avenge anyone. I don't care whether you're white, black. If you are following the commandments, or Hispanic or brown skin or whatever you want to call it, Chinese, Japanese, if you're following commandments, statutes, and ordinances of the Most High, one law. One law. Doesn't matter. Then David said unto the messenger, thus shalt thou say unto Joab, let not this thing displease thee, for the sword devoureth one as well as the other. Make thy battle more strong against the city and overthrow it, and encourage thou him. He already told him to leave. So that's how some of them got overthrown. And verse 26, and when the wife of Uriah heard that Uriah, her husband, was dead, she mourned for her husband. Now that was a given thing. David didn't mourn for her. He done porked his wife, as they put it. She didn't have no power over the king. She probably was afraid for her life. And now she got pregnant. She came off the time of her month. We don't know the time span at which he had laid with her. But his lust was so enticed or so engrossed with her that at whatever time, it could have been a few weeks, a few days after, and the ovulation cycle started. And she had a bastard baby. And when the wife of Uriah heard that her husband was dead, she mourned for her husband. And when the morning was past, David sent and fetched her to his house, and she became his wife. You tried to make her having two husbands. She became the wife of, she was the wife of Uriah. When you lay with her, she became your wife too. This is an abomination. Yes, woman, you sit up there, have two husbands, and they're both in the same house. And they're obeying you. You the man of the house. You're having all these things, but you only can have one child for, and don't even know whose child it is. Now, a man has to be foolish to share a woman with another man. And many are doing it and don't know it. And when the wife of Uriah and bare to him a son, but the thing that David had done angered God, not just displeased God. Don't water it down, Bible translator. God was furious with this. He could have destroyed David in the same hour that he laid with her. But there was something God had in mind. This was the turning point of Israel. This was the turning point. This is where Israel was. And God was going to, he showed them through Solomon what it could be. That's it. After that, it was a whole downward spiral. Israel would never rise after this sin of David. It's even his own son that was born because of adultery. A man taken from another man's wife when he had him killed. Nabal was not killed by David. David liked Abigail, as you can see. But Abigail was not one that would do such a thing. She understood her marriage to this man that she thought was foolish. But yet she stayed right where she was. And when he died, she went to David, or David sent for her. They didn't have no hanky-panky going on while she was married to Nabal. David knew better. And with that, if we obey the commandments, statutes, and ordinances of the Most High, we will have peace.
Walk with me.